I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. It's a big difference. Big difference.
Hunter, you don't say. You know who else was called a mighty hunter in the Bible? This guy right here. His name was Nimrod, who was the first Antichrist figure of the post-antediluvian world, who ruled with an iron fist and constructed the Tower of Babel, with the desire to reach into heaven and overthrow God. This Antichrist figure right here was called a mighty hunter here in Genesis chapter 10, verse 8 and 9. Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. Now, this idea of being a mighty one goes back to Genesis chapter 6, where you had the antediluvian world where the fallen angels, the Watchers, mated with the daughters of men to produce Nephilim. Now, after the flood, you have this remerging of the mighty ones in some capacity where Nimrod becomes a mighty one. So there's speculation that he has part genetics of the Nephilim. So verse 9, he was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Now, something I wanted to add, which I found interesting, was the timing with everything. So we have Mr. Abaddon calling himself a hunter, going to war in the Middle East. Well, the last time he went to war or declared war was 2003, the war in Iraq, where the same year we had this coming out, Treasure of Nimrod, I don't know why they spell it with a U, is found in Iraq. Again, as we can see right here, archaeologists in Iraq believe that they may have found the lost tomb of King Gilgamesh. Now, that is Nimrod, same individual, just different name, the subject of the oldest book in history. During this invasion, there were reports of looting of the museum and the tomb of Gilgamesh of Nimrod. Iraq Museum looting 15 years on, and this was back in 2018. We can see with this article in 2018, 15 years later, thousands of artifacts are still missing. Where we can see the ransacking of the National Museum of Iraq, which is Babylon, by the way, is one of the worst acts of cultural vandalism in modern times. I mean, you can find article after article like this one, but here from the Middle East Eye, Iraq War. When Baghdad fell, the country's treasures were lost. U.S. forces failed to protect Iraq's cultural heritage after the 2003 invasion, leading to thousands of artifacts disappearing. Now, this topic right here is a deep rabbit hole on its own, which I'm not going to go into detail in this video, but I encourage you to do your own research on it. And now I want to go back to this situation right here with Mr. Abaddon calling himself a hunter. Which, what a coincidence in timing. It is so impeccable, everything going on right now, where he calls himself a hunter, where at the same time, the constellation of Orion has his torch currently being lit by the sun. For those who do not know, Orion is called the hunter. The constellation is named after the hunter in Greek mythology. We also have another weird coincidence with the statue of the Statue of Liberty, celebrating its arrival anniversary on June 17th. What I personally find interesting with this self-proclaimed hunter, how he is associated with the goat. As we can see right here, his son posting this a couple months ago of him looking into a mirror and seeing himself as a goat. Then not to mention this very strange goat statue at Mar-a-Lago standing on a black cube. And of course, this goat is made of money because that is his god. But again, as we can see, internet reacts to golden dawn cash-covered goat idol at Mar-a-Lago. What's interesting for those who have studied the topic of the antediluvian world and the fallen angels is that the fallen angel Azazel is known as the leader of the rebellion, also is associated with the angel Shazmiaza, I think that's how you pronounce it, but Azazel is associated with the scapegoat. Also within the occult, Azazel is known as the goat-headed god and is associated with the practice of magic. Go figure, Azazel and Shazmiaza, which if you've done your research, they are most likely the same entity, they are associated with the constellation Orion. What a wild coincidence, where we can see the legend also connects them to the Orion constellation, with some traditions claiming they were transformed into stars as punishment. Now let's go back to this idea or symbolism of him being associated as a goat. It is very interesting when you go into Daniel chapter 8 and you see the goat takes out the ram. Daniel chapter 8 verse 5, and as I was considering, suddenly a male goat came from the west across the surface of the whole earth without touching the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Then he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing beside the river, and ran at him with furious power. And I saw him confronting the ram. He was moving with rage against him, attacked the ram, and broke his two horns. There was no power in the ram to withstand him, and he cast him down to the ground and trampled him. And there was no one who could deliver the ram from his hand. Now what's interesting, and some people are speculating right here, is that this idea that the male goat comes from the west across the surface of the whole earth without touching the ground kind of seems like what's going on right now, where the West is not touching the ground, flying over into the Middle East, the West going to the ram. The ram is symbolic of Persia, to take Persia out. Now, clearly, time will tell and prove all. I'm just trying to present to you guys information. You can come to your own conclusion. Now, with that all being said, I want to make something painfully clear for you guys to hear. I am not calling him the Antichrist. I, in my own opinion, believe he is a typology, a foreshadowing of the one to come, and that he is setting the stage perfectly for the guy to rise. But now, I would not be surprised in the future if he actually is the fulfillment and he does fulfill that role. But again, as of right now, I am still holding to the belief he is a typology, a foreshadowing. He clearly has, foreshadowing of Nimrod and what he is doing right now. A lot of weird things going on. But again, I'm just presenting to you guys information. You can come to your own conclusion. There's another point I want to make about him having these characteristics of the Antichrist is how he is protecting Israel. The Antichrist will protect Israel for the first 3.5 years. As we can see right now, this Mr. Nimrod 2.0, this hunter, is setting the stage perfectly for those first 3.5 years. He has clearly declared that he's going to crack down on anybody who opposes Israel, while also monitoring social media against those they deem anti-Semitic. What's concerning is that term is going to be weaponized against anybody who speaks in opposition. As we can see right here, so many grifters turning on Abaddon. I hope he punishes all of them. How lovely. Well, we also saw this news a couple weeks ago in the news before everything else came out to distract us, but how there is a database of Americans being established. Say what you guys want, but there's clearly a lot of information pointing to the fact that at the very least, he is a typology, a foreshadowing of Nimrod, who is the first original Antichrist. Which, in my personal opinion, is super concerning because the majority of the church is under this delusion, under this chaos magic spell, believing that he is a good guy, that he is actually for you, but in reality, it is false religion. It is a deception, a false light to pull you in to have trust, and that is why we need to pray for discernment, for wisdom. I mean, my goodness, the Lord warned us in Matthew 24 to take heed that nobody deceives you. Likewise, Paul in Ephesians chapter 5, to not be deceived by empty words, by vain words, individuals claiming to be something, but in reality, they have a deeper agenda or other motives of deceiving you. So with that, that's your information, guys. Again, come to your own conclusion, do your own research. I am just trying to present stuff to you and then tell you my opinion, okay? What do I know? But at the end of the day, I hope that you focus upon the Lord, that you get the gospel out, that you rest in your identity, understanding that you are in the hands of the living God, trusting and believing in the finished work on the cross that Christ paid our sin penalty with his shedded blood, the life, death, burial, and resurrection of our Messiah, King Jesus. Praises and honor and glory unto him. Keep on focusing upon him. I love you all so much. God bless. Remember, the just shall live by faith.